Hello and welcome once again to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. It's great to have you back with me as always. It's great to be here. It is review number 73 and part 2 of my latest series, Irish Oddballs. As I said before, what's an oddball? Just someone a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit different. And this, I think, fits into that series as an Irish oddball, the Redbreast Lustau Edition. It is a non-age statement whiskey, although we are looking at single pot still, a roughly 12-year-old with an extra year's finish in Oloroso sherry casks from the Bodegas Lustau in Spain, the wineries of the sherries, etc. And although, and I'm gonna hit you fairly early with this, there are those that would suggest that a lot of these sherry casks that we're talking about nowadays aren't really as high quality. You're not getting a massive influence from that sherry. There was a great piece, I think, written on this by Malt Official when it was reviewed a couple of years ago. I'll fire a link in here, either here or down in the description to it, which I think described it pretty well. This was a whiskey that for a while was like catnip to me. If I had a bottle of this in the cabinet, I couldn't leave it alone. If I wanted an Irish whiskey of a night, this was what I turned to. I just couldn't leave it alone. It was so rich, so creamy, so good. It was just had everything going on for me. I do like a sherry matured or sherry finished whiskey. I do like my Redbreast whiskey. And I thought this was, still think this was a very good addition to that series. But I think my mind is starting to change slightly about it. And I'll maybe explain that as I go along. So, Midleton Distillery, once again, Redbreast, single pot still, Irish whiskey, bottled at 46%. I'm ably informed that there's no chill filtration and no colour added in this. And the person who informed me of this, I trust them, so I will take their word and say that there's no chill filtration and no colour added. If so, put it on the bottle, please. It's what we like to see, isn't it? So, it's not much to ask. There's plenty of other stuff written in this bottle that could have just fired a little non-chill filtered, no colour added, natural coloured, somewhere on the label, and it would have made me a happier novice. Because that's the sort of thing I like. Usually comes in around the 40 to 50 pounds mark. Not something you see very often go on offer, although I did manage to pick this up on offer and was quite pleased about it. Now, back to why I like this so much. What it was for me that this appealed so much. And here's where I've changed a little on it. This used to have a reel, or used to have something, and I don't think it's the whiskey has changed. I think it's my palate has changed slightly. But this seemed to be richer, seemed to be warmer. Now, getting back to it, it starts out a little sharp and a little tart, even. And that sharpness tends to take away from the sherry notes a bit now. Whereas before, to me, the sherry really did play a big influence in this. I think I'm changing slightly. The sherry notes are still there and they do come back. They do still hang around. Fruitcake, when I say about the sherry notes, fruitcake, rich, sultanas, raisins, mixed peel. But there's also a hint of, I'm going to say, overripe apple and oak. The oak plays its part here as well. Quite a dry nose. I've talked before about nose feel, and there's a dry element of the nose in this. I'm also getting a slight tang of pencil eraser, as in the one that's usually on the end of a pencil. There's a very distinct smell of those. And there's a slight nuttiness as well off the nose. So, thick, sour delivery. Creamy and fruity, very much so. It is creamy. Hints of clove, cooking apple. Yeah, clove and cooking. So it is, or even, yeah, definitely clove and cooking apple. Nice. That sourness becomes sweeter quite quickly, and it's a good thing. Remember, when you talk about sweet, sour, bitter, salty, umami, you're talking about the map of the tongue. It's something I would recommend you all do, because I it's something that I actually use. I don't know why, but it's just something I enjoy. That I will talk about the delivery and the development, because it can make a difference. To me, it certainly makes a difference. And when I say about this having a sour delivery, basically it's firing off the sour part of your tongue round the back sides of the tongue, and that's where this lights first of all. But then after a while, you start to get the sweetness at the tip of the tongue. And there's, even with this, a slight bitter tang, like walnut. You would get off a good walnut. It all works very well together. There's even a slight perfume note of it. Sweeter through time, richer through time. Honey, syrup, all, yes, working very well together. The finish, it's quite long, slightly peppery, cracked black pepper. Nice, rich. Finish does go a little dry after a while, but no bad thing. It's still, to me, a very likeable whiskey. I did say there that my palate has changed. Still a likeable whiskey, just not as good as I remember it. Maybe it has changed. Yeah, I certainly know they rebranded in the last year. Maybe it has changed slightly, but I don't think so. I think it's maybe just my palate has changed slightly. Addition of water. Slightly sweeter. Slightly more citrusy. I said about clove and apple earlier on. There's a hint of good apple tart off this. Softer, smoother, more palatable. Still more creamy. Still nice, slightly tangy. Yeah, very good. Yeah, definitely. Finish remains good. Actually, I think the finish is slightly better with water. Slightly creamier. Less of that cracked black pepper, more palatable. And just threads out and just leaves a good memory. I do like this. I'm maybe confusing matters a little by saying, do I like it, do I not like it? I do like it. It's just not as good as I used. I don't like it as much as I used to, put it like that. I still think, I think now, actually, that I used to almost prefer this over the 12-year-old. The sherry element in this, the extra sherry element in this, pushed it a little. But I think now, going backwards, looking back, I think the 12-year-old is a more accomplished whiskey. It's a more balanced whiskey. It just works slightly better than this. But it's a fine line. It's a fine line. Let's just leave it at that. So, yes, if you like this, I'm going to recommend something slightly different to you. And this is literally just a recommendation. If you like this, try this. Buy yourself a bottle of sherry. This is actually from Lustau, Pedro Jimenez. And just the reason I'm suggesting this is pick up a bottle of sherry. It's not expensive. Don't go buying a real good one. I mean, you can pay big money for real good ones in the same way as you can with whiskey. But buy something off the supermarket shelves. You'll get Pedro Jimenez Lustau quite easily, I imagine. Just pour a glass and nose it. I'm not a big fan of sherry in itself. I like sherry maturation. I like sherry finishes on whiskey. Not a fan of sherry, but I do like the nose of it. Just not a fan of the taste of it. But it's something to just give you an experience. This will not go wasted. Fire it in a trifle, whatever, give it to the missus. I'm lucky that Mrs. Novice is a sherry fan. So every now and again I get the opportunity to buy a bottle of sherry, pour a glass and just nose it. And you start to find these big flavors, big notes. I actually nosed this when I was doing my tasting notes for this, and really you would struggle to find a lot of what's going on in here. At first, let it sit, let them settle, let them, get your nose in there, get used to it, and then you start to notice some things coming through. Those tangs. I noticed actually quite a lot of herbal notes throughout this sherry, which I didn't find in here. But it's just a good experience to spend not an awful lot of money, buy a bottle of this, and just tune your nose a little. It's for the fun. So there you go. My recommendation is, if you like this, buy a bottle of sherry. It's just something, as I say, a little different, and not a bad way to get yourself around nosing and tasting whiskey. So there you have it. Redbreast Lustau. Loved it. Whoa, love it. Like it. It's not as good as I remember it. That's probably the best way I could describe that, if that makes sense to you. So, yes, I would still recommend you buy a bottle and try it if you haven't done so. If you like sherried Irish whiskey, this is a very, very good place to go. There you have it. So, I'll be back next week with something a little different again. Until then, thank you for joining me. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much to my patrons. If you want to join that group, the link is in the details below. Until next week, here's to your good health. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.